Alright, hello once again, this is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. I've been going through a series of video presentations based on the PowerPoint slides for Murox, HTML5, and CSS3 4th edition. This is one of the two textbooks that's used for the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application in Web Development, 1000 Web Development Technologies class. So far, I have gone over all of Part 1, skip Part 2 for right now, and did Chapters 11 and 12 from Part 3. So now I'm going to take up Chapter 13, which is how to work with forms. And it's kind of been my policy so far. As I'm going through this, I'm not going to sit and read a lot of slides to you, so hopefully that's not why you're here. So we're going to talk about how to use HTML and HTML5 to create a form, and then how to use CSS3 to style the form more than anything else. And we'll talk about some of the things that are involved in forms. I'm sure I will leave some stuff out, not on purpose, but I'm just sure that that's the way that it'll be. So when you create a form, typically you give it a name. All right, why? So it can be referenced in code. All right, you have an action with that form, and what that action typically is, all right, typically what that action is you will send your form after somebody hits a submit button off, or you know, after it's been validated, you'll send it off to a server someplace, and it will go in as basically be answered by a PHP file or an ASP.NET file or a JSP file, etc. The method typically used to do that is one of two. Either it's post or it's get. Post if you're actually sending some information out. Get if you're not. All right, not sure what they mean by target. Hopefully we'll get into that in just a minute. You're going to see some of these, and what I'll do is I'll try to remember type, name, disabled, and read only. I've got type in there right now, and name. I didn't put anything in disabled or read only, but we can look at that in just a minute. So they show here some HTML for a form. Now I've already created a form. It has no CSS whatsoever, so it's really butt ugly. But what I want to show you from this is, if you look, forms begin with a form tag, they end with a / form tag. All right, here's the name of the form, it's email form. Here's the action, which means that when you click that submit button, if everything has gone through okay, it will be basically, it will go out to a to a server someplace where it can be handled by subscribe.php. It is a post, which means that you are sending some information over with you. All right. So what do we have in here? We've got a paragraph that says, please enter your email address to subscribe to our newsletter. And then we've got a text box in here, all right, whose name is email. And a submit button. All right, that says subscribe. So when we create this, it should create this. Again, the please enter your email address is here. The word email and then the text box is here. There's email and there's a text box. And the button that says subscribe is here. All right. So it says here, once you hit enter, this is the kind of thing that's going to be sent to subscribe .php. So you'll notice the email address is zach@modulemedia.com. So we're going to call subscribe.php. The email that will be sent will be Zach. This %40 is an @, modulemedia.com, and the submit will be equal to subscribe. All right. Now all the stuff that's in here, they say attributes of the input elements. You put a type in there, you can put a value in there. Some of these may require a source, an alt, a height, and a width. All right. So rather than doing this, I'm going to show you what I have done. All right. And I'm just hearing a boatload of noise outside of the classroom here. I'm going to literally pause. I apologize just for a minute because I want to see if it's raining. Oh yes, we've got a storm here, and it is almost 5:45 a.m. and I came in at 5, so I'm glad I did it that time because it wasn't raining then. Okay, so show you what I've done. All right, there's everything. It's about, I don't know, 100 lines long. We're going to go over it almost line by line in just a minute, but I want to run it for you just to show you how ugly it is. Well, that was interesting. Oh, I got to save first, sorry. To the desktop. There we go. Okay. Alright, so we'll run this. Here's what a form looks like that has basically absolutely no styling to it. Alright, this is going to look a lot different when we get done. But let's go through and look at what's in here. Now, again, my goal here is to concentrate on the form stuff. So, yeah, the doc type, etc. I'm not going to go over any of that. We have discussed that stuff. By and large, we have discussed everything up to here in other classes. Alright? But the first thing is we've got form, and we've got post equal act, method equal post, action equals, double quote, and I should have a name in here too. Name equals, and we'll call it sign up form. All right, so this is going to be posted, so I am going to be providing information to a server. It's not going anywhere though. Typically you'd see something like process.php. The problem is if I run this, and I click it with process.php, since I don't have a file by that name, what's going to happen is I'm going to get an error message because it's going to try to go to that file. In fact, I don't even have a submit button on here. I've got to add one. But it's going to try to go there, and it won't be able to. So let me quickly put a submit button in here. Put one more line break. And we'll put button type equals submit, name equals submit, and we'll even put it here an ID equals submit, and afterwards we'll put submit. Hopefully that did what I wanted it to do. There's our submit button. Notice when I click submit though, I get an error because it has tried to go out to this file right here, all right, which by default, because this is where I told it to go, it tried to go out right there to process.php, and that file does not exist. Don't worry about it for right now, that's just fine. But let's take a look. Again, you see the ugly form, but let's take a look at what makes up the form. All right. So forms again are inside of form tags. You typically have a method, which is almost always post or get. You oftentimes have an action which says basically that's the server file you want to send it out to. This is the name of the form, and I could even put this, put it like this, make it look a little nicer. I mean, it makes my file longer, but it's easier for me to see. Every component that you put into a form that you could conceivably want to use some CSS with should have both a name and an ID. The name is used on the server side. The ID is used by us on the client side. All right? So, then we've got a first name. So notice it looks a little funny here. It says label for equal first name. That line, in fact, I'm going to keep this up if I don't have it up. Oh. There it is. That's this right here that says first name. All right, probably made sense to you. Okay, so that's the label. Notice it says for equal first name. That's a fairly recent invention for forms. But what that means is if I click on the label, it should put me inside of this box. So let's see if it does. So if I click here, notice how I go in here and that becomes active. So all those that I've set it up for like this, okay, it's pretty obvious hopefully what's going on there. Then I've got an input type equals text, which means it'll be a text box. All right. Both its ID and its name are first name, and normally the ID and the name are set to be the same thing. Again, please remember that the ID part is used on the client side, the name is used on the server side. Then we've got another for label for equals last name, another text box. Then we've got an address, same thing. Then we've got a city, same thing. So I'm not going to go over those because those are what created all of this. All right, everything that you see kind of in blue there. Now the next thing that's up, notice it says state, and it's got all 50 states. And it also has the District of Columbia. Now I grabbed that code from online, but the point is, that's what's called a select box, so it's a drop-down list. And what I see on the screen is Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, etc. What actually gets stored are the state abbreviation, Alabama, etc. Now, what you'll notice is that by default, which means unless told otherwise, it says Alabama because that one is selected first. All right. Now, I'm coming at you from Missouri. So if I came at you from Missouri here, and I think it's the word checked, we're going to find out, but I'm going to put check there. Now, I've got to refresh the screen, and it evidently isn't checked. Might be selected, I don't know. Let's see if it's selected. See how it changed to Missouri? I mean, only one of these can be selected at a time, but if I was doing something for my employer, Rankin Technical College, it sure as heck would make sense if Missouri was the state. All right? And again, I just went online and I Googled select box for U.S. states. I think it was from freeformatter.com. So again, you have select, and these are your options. This is what shows on the screen here. This is what gets stored, possibly in a database or someplace else. Then we've got zip code, which is just another field like this. Then notice we've got email. It's a little different because the type is email. What does that mean? Well, I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to click submit. And really, I guess I'm surprised because it wouldn't try to send this, but I'm going to put in an email. I'm just going to put in hello. All right, and click submit. Notice I get, please include an @ sign in the email address. Hello is missing an @ sign. Well, what if I just put an @ sign in there? Please enter the part following hello. All right, hello at goodbye. And I click submit. It took that, but really it should have checked for like .com at the end or something like that. There's a little bit of built-in, not a lot, but a little bit of built-in validation happening right there. All right. Next, we've got age, which doesn't look that different until I put my mouse in it. And you'll notice right now, all right, I can just do this if I want to. All right. If I put hello in there, no, it won't take, well, it would take it. H, let's try it again. H-E-L-L. Now, it took the letter E. Why would it do that? Because E can be used with logarithmic numbers. So E would actually work in there. All right, but you notice, okay. Gender, well, notice the gender, those are what are called radio buttons. It can either be male, or female, or other. But you'll notice whatever one is selected, the other ones are not selected. Contact you via, these are checkboxes. So while radio buttons are for what are called mutually exclusive choices, choose only one, with checkboxes you can choose as many or as few as you'd like. All right, now I just went over that and I did it darn quickly. But I'm gonna let's start, for lack of better words, fixing this up a little bit. All right, what do I mean? Well, when you look here, let's see, first name, address, city, state. I'm going to take these things, first name, the last name, the address, the city, the state, and the zip code. Those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those first 6 things. And I'm going to kind of partition them off. And what do I mean? Well, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create, okay, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create, maybe I'm jumping ahead too fast. Okay, I want to put a legend in here, but let's go back and look and see what's in here. All right, so I did something very similar to this. Again, I'm trying not to get too far off the beaten path, so to speak. I showed you the button. There's different kinds of buttons you can make. I talked to you a little bit about some of this. Type was like type equal text, etc. Value, you saw that what you put in there. If you set up max length, that's how many characters you can put in. So for instance, if I wanted to make sure that a name had no more than 25 characters, a first name, I could say max length equals 25. Size, I believe, is how big the actual box is. Autofocus means that when the program starts, what do you want there? All right? And placeholder is just literally something you can put in. So let's look at this. I'm going to grab these. Copy them to the clipboard. Just throw them up here quickly in here because I don't want to miss anything. Then go back to my actual form and have this up on the side. So I've got type. All right, when value made sense, you saw value. Again, if I do want to come in here and use a max length, all right, I could come in here and as an example where I've got all this stuff, I could add here, this is just to show you, max length equals 25, all right? And now you'll notice that when I put this, when I run this program, I'm going to refresh, it doesn't look any different, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 1, 2, 3, 4, 25. Now, it's not letting me press anymore. So 25 is the maximum size I can make that. All right. Autofocus, a lot of times what you'll do is you'll take the first thing that you have here and you'll type in autofocus. And what that should mean, what that should do, is when this starts, you can see where my cursor is. All right. Only one field can have the autofocus at a time, so if I took it and removed it from here and put it here, went back and ran this again and refreshed, you'll notice now the focus is on last name instead of first name. Not always, but basically it's kind of an unwritten rule that if you are going to use autofocus, you put it on the first field. Again, it's not mandatory, though, that you do that. And placeholder. Okay, so what if I came in here and said this? Placeholder equals enter first name. All right. Then what you'll see is nothing until I refresh. See where it says enter first name? That's grayed out text. What that means is as soon as I take my cursor, click in here, and start to type, that text goes away. If I remove it, it comes back again. There are a lot of people today who create forms that they don't like using labels anymore. What they do instead is they have placeholders in all their fields. Is that a wise idea? I mean, I'm just saying, again, it's what some people do. I'm not going to say I agree or disagree with it. It depends on the circumstances. All right, is that everything? Yes. All right. All right. So they give you some examples of this stuff. A hidden field is one that doesn't show directly on the form. See that? Here's radio buttons and checkboxes. One thing to notice for the radio buttons, they all have the same name, but the value is different. They have the same name because they're all referring to the same field. The value is different because what they're actually going to put there is different. So notice gender, gender, gender. That's the name every time. But the values are male, female, and other. Right? And that's what you get. Again, these radio buttons are for what are called mutually exclusive choices. You can only choose one at a time. Checkboxes 0, 1, 2, or 3 can be chosen. All right, and there's the HTML for it. There's a drop down. There's the code for a list box. All right, most of this stuff will make sense once you see it in action. All right, so what I'm going to do right now, because I must be up near 20 minutes, and I am, is I'm going to stop here with part 1. And in part 2, we're going to come in and we're going to start adding some CSS to this, for lack of better words, to pretty this up a little bit. All right, so I'll be back with that shortly.